My wife ordered our trained German Shepherd to attack my sister at a family barbecue. I've never been more proud. My wife stood up suddenly during our family BBQ and commanded our German Shepherd in a voice I'd never heard before. Zeus, attack. The dog launched himself at my sister, jaws locking onto her forearm as she screamed and fell backward off the picnic bench, blood immediately soaking through her shirt. I tackled Zeus off my sister while our kids ran inside crying, and my parents screamed at my wife, calling her a psychopath who should be locked up. My mother was on the phone with 911, sobbing that her daughter-in-law had weaponized a dog against her own daughter, while my father tried to stop the bleeding with dish towels that turned red instantly. My sister was writhing on the ground, screaming that my wife was insane and had always been jealous of her, while our cousins filmed everything, and our 8-year-old daughter stood at the window watching her aunt bleed. I grabbed my wife's shoulders, demanding to know what the hell was wrong with her, why she'd lost her mind, and attacked my sister, who'd been nothing but helpful with our kids. The neighbors came running over and backed away when they saw the blood pooling on the concrete, one of them saying they'd testify that my wife commanded the attack unprovoked. My brother-in-law was hysterical, calling my wife an attempted murderer, while I stood there wondering if my wife had snapped from stress. That's when my wife finally spoke up. I found videos on Sophie's phone when she left it here last night, her voice shaking. What videos? I asked. She's been recording herself touching our children during babysitting. Everyone went silent, except for my sister's moaning, and my wife continued quickly, showing footage that made my legs go weak. I found 6 hours of her making Olivia play special games, where she has to sit on her lap without clothes, and worse things with Ben that I can't even say out loud. The video showed my sister's hands where they should never be, while Olivia begged her to stop, and I felt like I couldn't breathe watching my sister tell our 4-year-old it was their special secret. I only found this at 3 a.m. when I was looking for my charger and her phone lit up with a notification, my wife continued, tears streaming down her face. I spent all morning trying to figure out what to do, called the police, but they said they'd need to interview the kids first, which could traumatize them more, and I tried to tell you, but you were setting up for the BBQ and said we'd talk later. I remembered brushing her off this morning when she'd seemed frantic, telling her whatever it was could wait until after the family party. Sophie had written notes about how she was going to frame me for the abuse. She has edited videos where you can only hear the kids crying, and she was planning to call CPS tomorrow morning with an anonymous tip that would have me arrested. My wife showed us pages from Sophie's journal she'd found in her overnight bag, filled with detailed descriptions of what she'd been doing to our children and her escalation plans. She wrote about wanting kids, but not wanting to ruin her body with pregnancy, and how our kids were perfect and would be better off with her once I was in prison. The pages included Sophie's step-by-step plan to plant evidence, her practice scripts for calling CPS, and notes about which bruises on the kids she could photograph to blame on my wife. But that's not even why I had Zeus attack her, my wife said, her voice breaking. Sophie had hidden recording devices in our bedroom and the kids' rooms last night, and when my wife found them this morning along with everything else, she realized we were hours away from losing our children. I found receipts on her laptop for a storage unit where she's been preparing a room for them, with their clothes and toys she's been stealing from our house for months. My wife showed us photos from Sophie's cloud storage of our children sleeping, hundreds of them, taken during babysitting when we thought they were safe. When I saw her arrive today and put her hands on Olivia's shoulders, whispering in her ear that they were going to have special time later, I knew I couldn't wait for the police because she was going to hurt them again right here at our family party. Blood was running down my sister's arm as she pushed herself up from the ground, and I saw her face change when she realized everything was exposed. I felt sick, realizing I'd been letting a monster babysit our children, that every Thursday night when my wife had seemed anxious about leaving them with Sophie, there'd been a reason I'd ignored. The cousins were calling Sophie disgusting, and my father stood between her and the house where our children were hiding, while I tried to process that my little sister had been hurting my babies for months. The picnic table was right next to her with steaks we'd been about to grill, and the butcher knife we'd used lay within reach, still greasy from cutting meat. "You stupid itch," Sophie said to my wife, her voice different than I'd ever heard it, cold and flat. "Those kids love me more than you, and everyone would have believed me over some paranoid mother." Her hands started moving toward the knife handle. Full story on the channel below.